The laptop screen flickered one last time before going dark forever. I stood frozen in the middle of our living room in Cuttack, staring at the pieces scattered across the cool marble floor like broken dreams. My hand still shook from the moment it slipped from my grip. "You belong in the kitchen, not wasting time on that silly screen," my mother-in-law had hissed just minutes earlier, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. She had yanked the charger from the wall as if she were cutting off my oxygen. She believed I was lazy. She believed I did nothing useful. She believed I lived off her son's hard work. She was wrong. My name is Zapira Callan. I am 27 years old. I am married to her only son, Adrian. For 3 long years, I had swallowed her constant criticism about what a proper wife should do. I had smiled through her inspections of every corner of our home. I had stayed quiet when she judged my clothes, my cooking, and the way I spent my afternoons. That laptop had paid for almost everything around us. When she reached down to grab the broken device again, something deep inside me finally snapped. I stepped forward, my voice steady but low. "Enough!" She looked up at me with wide eyes, surprised I had spoken at all. I did not raise my hand. I simply pointed toward the front door of our house in Cuttack. "Leave!" Her face twisted in shock. She opened her mouth to scream Adrian's name, calling for him like he was her only shield. Adrian appeared in the doorway just as I walked past her. He stood there, eyes darting between us, caught in the middle like a man watching 2 storms collide. His mother, Lenora Callan, clutched at her chest dramatically. "You see what she did?" she cried out to him. "She is trying to destroy our family." I felt my chest tighten, but I refused to let tears fall. For 3 years, she had reminded me daily of my so-called place in this house. When Adrian and I first married, we had planned to live alone, but Lenora insisted we all stay together in this big house in Cuttack. She said it was temporary. Temporary turned into forever. She watched every move I made, how I arranged the furniture, how I prepared meals, how often Adrian laughed with me. She sat at the dining table like a judge, commenting on everything I did wrong. Adrian would sometimes squeeze my hand under the table and whisper that it would pass, but the whispers never changed anything. He never truly stood up for me. What Lenora never understood was that my time on the laptop was not a hobby. It had quietly grown into something much bigger. A small online project had become a real business. Clients, contracts, real money coming in every month. That day I had been preparing for an important virtual meeting, one that could change everything for us. Instead, the meeting never happened. The laptop lay in pieces. Adrian finally spoke, his voice hesitant. "Zapira, maybe you should say sorry." I turned to look at him slowly. "Sorry?" Lenora stood on the porch now, still clutching her arm as if I had hurt her physically. "She attacked me in my own son's house," she spat. I let out a soft, tired laugh. "Your son's house?" Adrian shifted uncomfortably on his feet. "Zapira, you went too far this time." I shook my head. "No, she went too far when she walked into my workspace and destroyed what I built." Lenora scoffed loudly. "Workspace? Typing on a computer is not real work. A wife cooks and cleans. That is real work." Something inside me grew very still and very clear. "Adrian," I said softly, "tell her what I actually do." He stayed silent. That silence spoke louder than any words. Lenora smiled triumphantly. "See? She has no real job. My son works hard while she plays games." My jaw tightened. I walked back inside, picked up the shattered laptop, and turned the cracked screen toward them. The dashboard was still visible. Numbers showing steady growth, client payments, upcoming contracts worth more than Adrian made in a year. Lenora's smile faded just a little. Adrian swallowed hard. His phone suddenly rang. He answered it quickly, his face turning pale as he listened. When he hung up, he looked at me with something like fear in his eyes. "It was my boss," he muttered. Lenora hurried back inside. "What is going on?" she demanded. Adrian turned his phone screen toward me instead of answering her. A video was playing. Someone had recorded the entire argument. My voice, Lenora's screams, the sound of the laptop hitting the floor. It had already been shared online. Thousands of views in just minutes. The title trending, "Wife Finally Fights Back." My stomach dropped, but not from shame. The comments were pouring in. People were angry for me. They were cheering me on. They were asking about my business. Adrian's boss had seen it too. His voice had been cold on the phone. "Fix this family mess or it will affect the company." Adrian looked at me like I had betrayed him. "What project are they talking about?" I asked quietly. He could not meet my eyes. 6 months earlier, without telling me, Adrian had used his company connections to quietly buy a small stake in my business. He called it protection, in case I failed, in case I needed saving. Lenora's confidence returned instantly. "My son always looks out for his family," she said proudly. "His assets," I corrected softly. "Not his wife. Assets." The word sat heavy in my chest. I walked back to my small office room and closed the door gently behind me. My hands were shaking, but my thoughts were sharp. I opened my tablet and logged into the main business account. I still held the majority share. I had full control. Adrian owned only 15%. That small percentage came with strict rules about behavior and public image, rules he had just broken in front of the entire internet. I typed a short email to the board members. I attached the viral video. I requested an urgent review of partner conduct. When I stepped back into the living room, Lenora was still lecturing Adrian about respect and family values. I looked at him calmly. "You wanted to control everything," I said. "Now it is my turn to set things right." That same evening, the board held an emergency video call. I joined from the dining table in our house in Cuttack. Lenora sat on the couch, arms crossed, watching like it was her personal television show. Adrian stood behind her, his face tight with worry. The video clip played first for everyone to see. Lenora's harsh words, Adrian's silence, my broken laptop. Then the business numbers appeared on screen. Growth charts, future plans, the big deal that Adrian's firm wanted to secure through my company. One of the main investors leaned forward. "Mr. Kalin, were we aware that personal issues could damage the brand like this?" Adrian cleared his throat. "It was just a small family disagreement." Another investor shook his head. "That disagreement is trending worldwide now." I stayed quiet. I simply shared one more document on the screen. The ethical agreement Adrian had signed when he bought his shares. The part that said any public action harming the company's reputation could lead to losing those shares. The room went completely silent. Then the vote came. Unanimous. Adrian's shares were immediately frozen. His firm paused all talks about the new partnership. Lenora's face went white. Adrian stared at me as if I had become someone he no longer recognized. I closed the tablet softly. "You told me my place was in the kitchen," I said. "So I cooked up something fair." Adrian finally raised his voice. "You ruined everything." I looked at him sadly. "No, you risked everything trying to keep me small." Lenora jumped up from the couch. "You destroyed my son's future over one silly argument." I shook my head. "He destroyed his own future by choosing control instead of trust." For the first time in 3 years, Adrian's confident mask cracked. "We could have talked about this privately," he said, his voice breaking a little. "I tried talking for 3 years," I replied. "You never listened." The silence that followed felt heavier than any shouting. By morning, the video had crossed 2 million views. New clients were reaching out to my team. Investors wanted meetings. My company's value had suddenly jumped higher than ever. Adrian's phone kept ringing. His firm had placed him on leave while they investigated. Lenora looked devastated. "This is all because of you," she whispered angrily at me. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Lenora," I said gently but firmly, "this house is no longer your home." She looked at Adrian, waiting for him to defend her. He stayed silent. For the first time, he had no words to protect her. That silence felt like freedom. The next morning, the house felt different, lighter, quieter. Lenora had packed her bags during the night. Adrian had finally told her the truth. The house in Cuttack belonged to me, bought with the first real profits from my business. Not from his salary, not from her help, just mine. She left without saying goodbye. Adrian stayed behind. He sat at the kitchen table for hours, staring at his hands. Finally, he spoke. "I never thought you would pick your business over our marriage." I sat down across from him. "I never thought you would pick power over loving me as an equal." In that moment, everything became painfully clear. My real victory was not freezing his shares. It was not the trending video. It was finally seeing the truth. Adrian had not married a partner. He had married someone he believed he could shape and control, and I had spent 3 years trying to fit into that smaller version of myself. I was done trying. A week later, I prepared new paperwork. Not for divorce, not yet, for a clean business separation. Adrian agreed to sell his shares back to me, at a loss. He said staying connected to the company now meant answering to me every day. He could not live with that. I watched quietly as he carried his suitcase to the door. No anger burned inside me anymore, only a deep, quiet peace, the kind that comes after years of carrying weight you never deserved. He paused at the threshold and looked back at me. "I am sorry, Zapira." I nodded slowly. "Sorry is a beginning, but respect is what I needed all along." He stepped outside. The door closed softly behind him. I stood alone in the house in Cuttack that I had built with my own hands and dreams. For the first time in 3 years, I felt truly at home. The laptop was gone, but my future had never looked brighter. I walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street. Somewhere out there, new opportunities were waiting, new beginnings, and this time, I would walk toward them without anyone trying to pull me back. I smiled to myself, a small, real smile, the kind that comes from deep inside when you finally choose yourself. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more emotional stories.